Right, so this man should never have gone for the job at ALDI in the first place, because ALDI is a supermarket and they sell alcohol.
That's right, and then it's not only alcohol, so it's anything, and also the pork products that are on sale. So it's both. It's not. I mean, I know that the emphasis on this at the moment is alcohol, but it's not only alcohol; it's also pork products, because we're not supposed to handle them. So I know they're in plastic wrapping or whatever, but still you're handling that meat.
So what about the Muslims who run my local, Indian restaurant, who serve Cobra beer by the bucket load? I mean, is that acceptable?
No, it is not, because that's the thing. You should not be selling or serving alcohol.
Right. So those Muslims who work in restaurants, in places that serve alcohol, what are they? They're bad Muslims?
Oh, no, I wouldn't say bad. I mean, I can't be a judge whether, somebody is good or bad, but it is going against your faith teachings.
But isn't it just accepting that in this country, alcohol is a perfectly normal part of our culture? We do consume alcohol. A lot of people consume alcohol. The majority of the population at some point in the week will consume something alcoholic. And isn't it just about adapting to that? And shouldn't any Muslim in this country, maybe they decide that they themselves don't want to drink alcohol and they don't want to necessarily, they don't want to pour it or have to actually be involved in the encouraging of consumption of it. But to work in a supermarket and to scan a bottle of wine is really not doing any harm whatsoever.
This is your faith. To maintain your faith, if you have to go through that and you have to sacrifice, then that's what you need to do, unfortunately.
OK, Fazalat, stay there. Let me bring Sanjay in, who's called to have his say. Good morning to you, Sanjay.
Good morning, Jonathan. It's been quite a while, about a year since I last rang. How you doing, all right?
Well, yeah, good, thank you. What would you like to say then? I'm listening to Fazalat suggest that actually ALDI, although that member of staff maybe should not have been in that role and maybe he should not have even gone for the job in the first place, the fact that ALDI then accommodated his religious beliefs shows that they're a very good employer.
I think personally, to be honest with you, I think ALDI are being too tolerant. And the thing is, I think they should sack him. First of all, he shouldn't have even got a job there, because he can't start imposing what he wants to do in the shop. It's just a job. It's a job to everyone. Whoever works has to do the same thing. Now, what I want to mainly say is, why should ALDI have to tolerate him and he can't tolerate ALDI? Things like this is which causes more Islamophobia. Because when Muslims are showing in the UK that they can't tolerate things, Islamophobia starts increasing more, because then they realize that, look, these people are intolerant. So that's my main point.
So this man and his decision and ALDI accommodating his religious beliefs, you think encourages Islamophobia?
Absolutely, because this is totally showing that Muslims are intolerant. And it's not just in this country. Muslims are intolerant everywhere, and Islam is intolerant.
No.
Okay, so as far as Fazalat is concerned, I mean, she's kind of in agreement with you that ALDI should not have to bend their rules. They should not have to change, Sanjay.
Yeah, but I feel Muslims in the UK are making us all change slowly anyway, because first of all they're overpopulating, then they're getting Sharia courts, then they're getting their religious schools, and I feel there's only 5% Muslims. Look, can I finish? I feel that there's 5% Muslims in the UK, only 5%, and look at the amount of hassle they're causing. Imagine when there's 10 to 20%. So it's a worry, it's a concern, it's a serious concern. Yes.
It's the freedom of choice to have your own faith school like every other faith has. And nobody is stopping anybody else from opening up their own faith schools. That's a totally different topic. A way of life, what I do in my own home is my own business. And
every other faith is tolerant, because even this country is a Christian country and it showed its tolerance. In fact, I feel this country is too tolerant, especially to Muslims and Islam.
But hang on one second. Hang on one second. We just stick to the point. I wonder, and this is a genuine question, I don't know the answer to this, but would a Jewish member of staff working for a supermarket, would they have concerns about handling pork products? If a customer had a joint of pork and they put that on the checkout, I wonder whether a Jewish member of staff may have a bit of an issue and not want to handle that pork.
They may, but the problem is people are. They may, but the problem is people are not worried about Jewish community because they're in this country and they don't do anything wrong like Muslims do. I mean, I'm a Hindu.
Well, hang on, Sanjay. Hang on.
Yeah.
What do you mean by Muslims do things wrong?
They're constantly doing things wrong.
What? Like what?
Well, the main thing is, and this is a serious thing, that they're overpopulating, number one, and they are intolerant.
But it's none of your business or my business how many babies people want to have.
Thank you.
Normal people have babies out of love. These lot have it just to take over the country. I know.
Hang on a minute. Where are you getting this from?
Yes. Thank you.
This is common sense. I'm from Leicester, and believe it or not, give it 10 to 20 years, you'll see exactly what happens in this country. Now, the thing is, I don't encourage people to hate. I don't encourage people to hate Muslims at all, but they need to stop being intolerant, which they are. And as for Jews, Jews are.
You sound, Sanjay. You sound like a man who just does not like Muslims very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm a Hindu and I don't eat beef. Okay, now if I was working at a supermarket, it wouldn't bother me one bit about touching the beef or anything, because why would I let an idea take over my whole life? Muslims do that, and that's wrong. They should know that. They're British first. Forget all these ideas, and it's getting kind of ridiculous.
It's not an idea. It's your faith.
No, it's an idea.
It's not
Islam is an idea, like every other idea.
No.
Have you got scientific evidence of this, please? Scientific.
Yes, it is. It's completely forbidden in the Quran to drink alcohol. We do not serve and we do not buy or sell alcohol. According to my faith, it is not allowed. And this is why I'm saying that that person should not have taken that job in that first place. Because if your faith is that strong, you would not you do not want to be put in that position.
I agree with that bit, but I don't agree when you say Islam is tolerant, because it's completely intolerant. But I agree with you on the rest.
Very tolerant.
So
tolerant.
Can I just explore this a little bit further?
Just like you've got Hindus who are not intolerant. Just look at what's happening in India.
Where?
Have a look at what's happening in your own background.
Could you please show me, please, that Hindus, Jews, Sikhs, Buddhists in England who are intolerant to everyone else, please, or Christians? Could you please
but what
show
you are doing is you are criticizing things that are happening abroad, and you're bringing that into Britain.
It is happening in Britain. I'm sorry.
We are living here as a very inclusive society, and yet, yes, we have, like everybody else has, got problems. What we're saying is we do not impose our faith on other people.
Can I just ask you a question? Fazilat? If we just work on the basis of, if we take just an element of what Sanjay was saying, I mean, he talks about, he lives in Leicester, and obviously the Muslim population in Leicester is large and is increasing. And he seems to be, I think the basis of your argument, Sanjay, is that although at the moment there are only 5% of the population who are Muslim in this country, that in the future that percentage may be higher. Am I right in working on that basis?
It will. In about 20 years, I'd say it'll be 15 to 20%.
So
Muslim.
If Sanjay is right in what he says, that actually the Muslim population is increasing in this country, and that in say 20 years' time, that 5% level will actually be much higher. If we start to have a position in this society where a very considerable amount of people who live here are Muslim, do you think that would then enable the Muslim population, the Muslim community in this country, to start dictating what supermarkets can sell? In terms of, do you think it would then be reasonable to say to supermarkets, we don't want you selling alcohol anymore, we don't want you selling pork products?
No,
exactly.
You cannot do that. No. Right. Because at the end of the day, you are living in Britain. This is the thing. This is like we all realise that. This is even those who are. But if in the future
Britain was a country where a very considerable amount of the population was Muslim, would that then change what is acceptable and what is not?
No, it won't.
Yes, it will. It will. Because most foods already halal.
Hang on, let Fazilat, hang on, Sanjay. Just let Fazilat answer the question. Go on, Fazilat.
Okay. Because don't forget that we've also got our children who are growing up in this country, who are part and parcel and the fabric of this country, and there is no way they will also tolerate that.
But if you're bringing your children up to be good Muslims, based on what you've said, then your children wouldn't want anything to do with alcohol anyway.
It's just as what's going to happen in the future, because we will be living side by side, cheek to cheek with other communities. And this is what I'm saying is Islam is not intolerant. It's not exclusive. Otherwise, we wouldn't be where we are today. We wouldn't be part of the fabric of this, of this country or this community.
Sanjay, you wanted to come back?
Yeah, I just want to quickly say, she just says that the Muslims who are being born now and then later on in life, which are more tolerant. In fact, it's the complete opposite, because the Muslims who first came to this country were more tolerant, and the more generations are going by, they're becoming more intolerant. Why? I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why, because this country is giving them too much freedom. All the Islamic schools, all the Sharia courts, and it's getting out of control. This country needs to wake up into reality. That's all I'm saying.
Fazalat, I hear you saying no, you don't agree with that. I'm going to leave it there, but thank you very much indeed to both of you. Very interesting. Fazalat is a Muslim who lives in Milton Keynes. Sanjay, thank you for calling with your view.
We need to think about others here, and I really don't think that religion should trump any other reason for accommodation of employees.
What was rather interesting was a little earlier, Sanjay, who'd called in, he was making this argument. He put it in rather crude terms. He was talking about the number of babies that Muslims have. I think the basic point that he was trying to make was that although now the population of this country is about 5% Muslim, in the future, based on population increases, that percentage will actually be higher, and then we may find that this kind of issue occurs more and more often unless you stop it now. Interestingly, the National Secular Society hosted a post on your website a couple of years ago, I gather, in which it was suggested that in just over 20 years' time, 1 in 9 people in this country will be Muslim. What do you make of those figures? Do you stand by those figures, Keith?
Well, certainly the proportion has risen significantly and will continue to rise significantly. But there are also an awful lot of Muslims who work, who are in the workforce, who work without any difficulty with the rest of their co-employees and with their employers.
But I guess the point is that if, for example, we get to a point where 50% of the population is Muslim and 50% is not, will most Muslims actually start saying, well, no, we don't any longer have to accept things like alcohol in supermarkets. We can insist that it is eradicated because we don't want it. We no longer have to put up with going through the meat section in Sainsbury's and finding packets of bacon. We can demand that bacon is no longer stocked by supermarkets. Will we get to a point where we see that kind of sea change and shift?
Well, I hope not. But I mean, religion is notorious for grabbing any power that it can and exerting the power to the maximum extent possible. My goodness, the established church did it for long enough. And in the end, it's going to be down to Parliament to decide if any of the current arrangements about reasonable accommodation will have to change, and for religion to trump any other reasons. And we feel very strongly that it shouldn't, and we took 3 cases to the European Court of Human Rights where we intervened, where effectively these were Christian cases of a Christian marriage registrar that didn't want to do civil partnerships, where we actually said no, religion doesn't trump everything else, and we won those 3.
Okay.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.